Her family sold her for being infertile, but 3 nights after the vampire took her in, Talia Jensen felt life flutter beneath her ribs, an impossible heartbeat that shattered every lie she'd been told. Now she must face the terrifying truth. She was never broken, only chosen. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now, let us begin. The rain slid like cold fingers down Talia Jensen's cheeks as she stepped off the sagging porch of her parents' house for what she already suspected would be the last time. Her old suitcase bumped against her leg, its wheels catching on the uneven boards of the front steps. She didn't look back. She didn't want to see the dim kitchen light behind the curtain or the shadow of her mother pretending she wasn't watching. The door had clicked shut too quickly, too eagerly, as though the house itself were relieved to be rid of her. The gravel crunched under her boots as she approached the sleek black car at the end of the driveway, an expensive-looking thing with tinted windows that were too dark for Briar Hollow, a town where everyone wanted to see into everybody's business. The car didn't belong here. Neither did the tall, pale man standing beside it. Dorian Vale. That's what he had told her family his name was. Talia had no idea who he truly was, only that he spoke with a calmness that unsettled her mother and made her father strangely polite. She'd grown up watching those two snap and curse at anyone who dared to look at her wrong, but Dorian's presence made them shrink in their own home. He wasn't intimidating in any obvious way. He wasn't big, wasn't loud, didn't look like someone who could win a fight. His strength was more subtle. The sharpness in his pale eyes, the stillness in his posture, the unnatural focus he gave to every word spoken to him. Even his accent was unrecognizable, soft, old-fashioned, but smooth like whiskey left too long in an oak barrel. Talia wiped her wet palms against her jacket as she approached. She didn't know whether to thank him or curse him. Was he saving her, or was he simply buying her? Technically, both could be true. "Miss Jensen," Dorian said, voice level and almost soothing over the sound of the rain. "Are you ready?" She stared at him, the way the droplets rolled down his cheekbones, but didn't seem to bother him. He wasn't shivering. He wasn't cold. He barely looked alive. "Do I have a choice?" Talia asked, not trying to hide the tremble in her voice. For a moment, she thought she saw something almost like sympathy in his eyes, just a flicker, quickly gone. "Not anymore," he answered. "But I assure you, you're safer leaving than staying." Safe. What a strange word. She had never felt safe in Briar Hollow. Not with parents who treated her like she was a stain on the family reputation. Not with neighbors who whispered that her inability to conceive made her useless, as though her body had betrayed the town's unspoken requirements. Not with the persistent nightmares, the fainting spells, the vibrations in her chest that sometimes made her feel she was living half in this world and half in another. A gust of cold wind made her hug her arms around herself. "If you'll get in," Dorian said, opening the car door for her. Talia climbed inside, the leather seats soft and oddly warm against the chill of her soaked clothes. The door closed behind her with a muted thump, shutting out the rain, the house, her parents, the whole heavy weight of Briar Hollow. She released a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Dorian slid into the driver's seat, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his mouth as though satisfied that she hadn't run. The interior of the car smelled like cedar and something sweet she couldn't place, something almost floral but deeper, richer. They drove in silence for several minutes, the gravel road turning to smooth pavement as they left the edges of town. The headlights cut through the mist. "Where are we going?" Talia finally asked. "To my home," Dorian replied, keeping his eyes on the road. "It's isolated. You will not be disturbed there." "That's comforting," she muttered, then instantly regretted the sarcasm. For all she knew, men like him didn't appreciate jokes. But he simply let out a soft breath, almost a laugh. "You'll find I don't disturb easily," he said. She glanced sideways at him. His profile was sharp. High cheekbones, smooth jawline, skin pale but flawless. He didn't look like the kind of man who appeared in Briar Hollow by accident. He looked like he belonged in old portraits or those rare historical films her grandmother used to watch. "You're not from around here," she said. "No," he agreed. "But I've been watching this town for quite some time." Her hands tightened around her seatbelt. "Watching? That's not as concerning as you think." His eyes slid briefly to hers. "I've been watching you." Every hair on her arm stood up. "And what did you see?" she whispered. "That everything you've ever been told about yourself is wrong." Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't know why those words shook her. Maybe because deep down, she had always suspected the same thing. He looked at her again, gaze steady and unreadable. "You feel it, don't you?" he continued. "The disconnect, the pull, the wrongness of what they told you." Talia swallowed hard. How do you?" He cut her off with a gentle shake of his head. All in time. The car rounded a bend, opening to a view of the mountains. Mist clung to the forest like it didn't want to let go. Talia leaned her head back and closed her eyes. She couldn't tell whether she was exhausted or terrified, or if the two were simply blending together. One question kept circling in her mind. Why her? Because something wasn't adding up. No rich man traveled to Briar Hollow to take a young woman under his care, especially one labeled infertile and useless. And he certainly didn't pay that much. Her parents hadn't told her the exact amount, but the look in their eyes had said it all: greed, relief, and something close to triumph. "Can I ask something?" she murmured, eyes still closed. "Of course." "Why me?" The car slowed just slightly, as though her question pressed on the engine itself. "You'll learn that answer piece by piece," he said. "But for now, because you were born for more than that town ever allowed you to be." She opened her eyes, blinking at him in confusion. "That doesn't mean anything." "It will," he said softly. They drove for another hour, weaving deeper into the mountains. The road narrowed, then smooth, then narrowed again until it felt like it was hardly a road at all. Finally, they reached a wrought iron gate tall enough to keep out a bear, maybe even a small army. Dorian pressed a button, and the gates groaned open like a creature waking from a long sleep. Talia's stomach turned when she saw the house beyond the trees. It wasn't a mansion, not like the kind she'd seen in movies, but it was old and sprawling, with stone walls and windows that flickered faintly in the dark. It felt ancient. Watching, it felt like the kind of place where secrets lived. The car rolled to a stop, and Talia exhaled slowly. "Welcome," Dorian said. "This will be your home now." Her parents had sold her. Her fate belonged to a stranger. And yet, stepping out into the cold mountain air, she didn't feel trapped. She felt the strangest thing, something she wasn't sure she had ever felt before. Possibility. Dorian guided her inside, one hand lightly gesturing toward the tall doors. The interior was warm, lit by flickering sconces and old chandeliers. Not modern at all, more like the preserved skeleton of a different century. There was a quietness in the air that felt alive. "Are there others here?" she asked. "No." A pause. "Just us." Her pulse fluttered. He led her through the hallways, pointing out rooms, kitchen, library, guest rooms, but she barely processed any of it. Her mind swirled with questions, unease, and a weird sense of familiarity, like she'd been here before in a dream. When they reached her bedroom, Dorian opened the door, but did not step inside. "This room is yours," he said. "You're free to come and go as you please. I expect nothing of you except that you rest." Rest. She hadn't truly rested in years. "Why do you care?" she whispered. His expression softened in a way she couldn't decipher. "For the same reason I came for you." "And what reason is that?" she asked. A faint smile touched his lips, sad, almost reverent. "Because you're more important than you know." Talia blinked, heart pounding in her chest. "You sound like you know something about me that I don't." "I know many things," he said, "but telling you now would overwhelm you. Tonight, you sleep. Tomorrow, we talk." She shook her head. "No, I need answers." "You will have them." His eyes locked onto hers. "But only when your body is strong enough." "My body is fine," she said quickly. His gaze flicked downward, lingering near her abdomen for half a second. Barely noticeable, but enough to make her blood run hot. "You are not fine, Talia," he said gently. But you'll be. She opened her mouth to argue, but he had already turned to leave. Dorian, she said before she could stop herself. He paused in the doorway. Why did my parents agree to sell me? She whispered. Why me? His answer was soft, but it hit her like a stone. Because they never understood what you truly are. Then he left. Talia sank onto the edge of the bed, hands trembling. What she truly was. What did that mean? She lay down, trying to steady her breathing. The blankets were warm and smelled faintly of cedar, like the car. Her eyes grew heavy. Her body felt light. The room dimmed, and then, somewhere between waking and sleep, she heard a whisper, soft, deep, ancient. Awaken. Her heart seized. Her breath caught. And something small, warm, impossibly alive, fluttered inside her lower belly. She gasped and sat up, gripping the sheets. That wasn't possible. She was infertile. She couldn't. A second flutter. Stronger. Talia grabbed her stomach with shaking hands. No, she whispered. No, no, no. But the warmth spread, blooming like fire beneath her ribs. She didn't know it yet, but on her very first night in Dorian Vale's home, something long dormant inside her had unlocked. Something her body had been waiting her entire life to release. And 3 days later, the world she thought she understood would unravel completely. Talia woke to silence, so complete it felt like a weight pressing over her ears. For a moment, she wasn't sure where she was. Her eyes blinked open slowly, adjusting to the dim amber glow that filtered through the heavy curtains. The bed beneath her was softer than anything she'd ever slept on. The blankets still held that faint cedar scent, and the pillow was shaped perfectly beneath her cheek. Then the memories of last night rushed in. The rain, the car, Dorian, the way something inside her, something she had never known, had fluttered with life. Talia's hand flew to her stomach. Her breath caught, her heart thundering as she pushed the blankets aside and pressed her palm flat against her abdomen. Nothing. No heat. No flutter. Just stillness. She closed her eyes, letting out a shaky breath. Maybe it had been a dream or a hallucination. Maybe she'd been so exhausted that her mind invented impossible things. A soft knock at the door made her jolt. Talia, Dorian's voice, low and calm. Yeah, she called back, pushing herself upright. You can come in. The door opened without a creak. Dorian stepped inside, dressed as impeccably as the night before. He wore black slacks and a button shirt that fit him perfectly, sleeves rolled to his forearms. His pale skin seemed to catch the faint light in the room, somehow making him more striking in daylight than he had been in shadow. How did you sleep? He asked. Talia swallowed. Fine. Strange, but fine. Dorian nodded. Good. Your body needed the rest. You were weaker than I expected when we arrived. I'm always weak, she said with a shrug. People back home acted like I was born broken. He stepped closer, his expression tightening. You were not broken. You were dormant. She frowned. You said that last night. What does that mean? It means, he said carefully, that the life inside you has always been there, only waiting for the right moment to emerge. Talia's breath stilled. Memories she'd buried deep began rising uninvited. The fainting spells, the dreams that felt too real, the pulse she sometimes felt under her ribs, as though her heartbeat didn't belong to her. The way she sometimes sensed things, changes in weather, lies people told, doors opening before she reached them. She had always assumed it was illness or anxiety or her imagination. What are you saying? She whispered. Instead of answering, Dorian tilted his head slightly. Walk with me. Breakfast is ready. Her stomach growled in response, and despite everything swirling in her mind, she nodded. Dorian didn't offer his hand, but he held the door for her. The hallway beyond was long and lined with portraits, old ones, so detailed and deep they looked like they held memories instead of paint. Are these your family? She asked as they walked. No, he said. Not by blood. By what then? History. That wasn't an answer, but she let it go. The dining room was brighter, with tall windows that overlooked endless forest. A plate of food sat waiting for her. Fresh berries, eggs, toast, and something that smelled buttery and warm. Talia hesitated. You didn't have to cook for me. I didn't. Dorian said simply. But I instructed someone to... Someone? I thought it was just us here. It is, he replied. But I am capable of many things. She shot him a look. That explains absolutely nothing. Good, he said as if pleased. She sat and took a tentative bite of the toast. The warmth flooded her mouth, and she let out a soft groan without thinking. This is incredible, she said. Dorian's lips twitched, like he was amused by her reaction. Eat. Your body is stabilizing. Food will help. Stabilizing from what? She could hear the edge creeping into her voice. He folded his hands on the table. From awakening. Talia froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Awakening what? The part of you that is not entirely human. Her fork clattered onto her plate. What? She whispered. Dorian didn't flinch. You are a descendant of a long-forgotten bloodline, one that nearly died out centuries ago. The town you grew up in is old, older than most realize. The mountains carry far more history than people understand, and your ancestors were not ordinary. Talia sat back, gripping the edge of the table. That makes no sense. My family is normal. My parents are not your family in the way you believe, Dorian said gently. Your mother's bloodline carries recessive traits, dormant traits. You are the first in generations to express them. What traits? She demanded. He held her gaze, slow and deliberate. Life, he said. Creation. Energy stronger than any human body has ever held. Enough to sustain a hybrid child. Her heart stopped. A hybrid child. No, she said, shaking her head. You can't stop. You can't just drop something like that on me. He inclined his head. I apologize. But you asked. Talia pushed away from the table, standing so quickly the chair scraped across the floor. She started pacing, each breath sharper than the last. This is crazy, she muttered. I can't. I'm not. Hybrid? Awakening? That doesn't even sound real. Your body knows it is real, Dorian said softly. Which is why you felt the first pulse last night. Her hand flew to her stomach again. I dreamt that. It was no dream. Her lips trembled. You're saying I'm pregnant. Dorian didn't move from his seat, but his voice carried a quiet gravity that filled the room. Yes. Talia staggered back, gripping the edge of the table for support. No, she whispered. That's impossible. I'm infertile. They tested me. I can't. You were misdiagnosed, he said calmly. The doctors saw your dormant state and assumed it was failure. They did not understand the signs. Tears blurred her vision. All her life, she had been told something was wrong with her, that she was less than the other girls, that no man would want her, that she would never bear children, that something inside her was broken. Then what am I? She whispered. Dorian stood for the first time since they entered the room. The air shifted subtly, like the walls themselves recognized him. He came closer, stopping several feet away, close enough for her to feel him, far enough to keep from overwhelming her. You, he said, are rare, precious, a living conduit of an ancient power, a power that has not appeared in centuries. She wiped her face roughly. You're not answering me. You are human, he said, but not only human. Your bloodline once held an ability, an affinity for life itself, a force stronger than magic, more enduring than mortality. Those who carried it could heal, sense danger, even create life in ways the world no longer remembers. And now you think I have that, she choked. I know you do, he said. She stared at him, shaking her head again. And what does that have to do with you? Dorian's eyes darkened. My kind, he said, cannot create life. Not normally. It has been forbidden to us for thousands of years by curse or design, we do not know. But the prophecy spoke of a union between a dormant soul and a being of the night, a child who would bridge the gap between worlds. Talia's back hit the wall. Stop. I cannot, he said softly. Because you're carrying that child, Talia, and the world will come for you when they learn. A cold tremor shot through her. How long? She whispered. How long has this been happening? 3 nights, Dorian said. The bond formed the moment you stepped onto my land. Your awakening happened faster than I anticipated. She pressed both hands to her mouth to keep from screaming. Her knees nearly buckled, and Dorian stepped toward her instinctively. She raised a hand sharply. No, don't. He stilled immediately. Talia slid down the wall, sitting on the floor with her head in her hands. Tears soaked her palms. Her heartbeat felt too fast, too loud. How am I supposed to handle this? She whispered. How am I supposed to believe any of it? Dorian knelt a respectful distance from her. You handle it one truth at a time, he said. And you believe it because your body will not allow you to deny it much longer. Talia swallowed hard. I don't even know you. You will, he said. She looked up at him, eyes red. Why me? Why did it have to be me? Because destiny does not choose the strong, Dorian said gently. It chooses the necessary. She let out a broken laugh. That's not comforting. No, he agreed. But it is honest. The room fell silent except for her shaky breathing. After a long moment, Dorian rose and extended something toward her. A handkerchief, soft, embroidered with a symbol she didn't recognize. May I? He asked. This time, she nodded. He handed her the cloth, but didn't touch her. The gesture itself felt intimate in its restraint. Talia wiped her face, hands still trembling. What happens now? She whispered. Now, Dorian said, I teach you what you are, and I protect you from those who will want to claim you. Her pulse quickened. People will come after me. Not just people. His eyes darkened. Other beings. Other clans. Those who want the child for power. Those who want you removed as a threat. Talia's breath hitched. Remove? Yes. Her fingers tightened around the handkerchief. Why would they want that? Dorian's expression softened. Because life is the most dangerous power in the world. And you can create it. A shiver ran through her. Talia stared down at her stomach, still flat, still still. But now she understood what she had felt. She understood the heat, the pulse. And she understood the danger. When she finally looked back up at Dorian, a new question trembled on her lips. Will you protect me? She whispered. He didn't hesitate. With my life, he said. The conviction in his voice shook her. For the first time since she'd left Briar Hollow, Talia felt something strange and unimaginable bloom in her chest. Hope. And she hated that it came from him. Reflection question for readers. If someone told you your entire life had been a lie, your identity, your weaknesses, even your limitations, would you embrace the truth or run from it? Comment what you think you would do. Talia didn't say anything else for several minutes. She simply breathed, slowly, trying to convince herself the floor wasn't tilting. Finally, she whispered, I want to know everything. Not later. Now. Dorian nodded once. Then we begin. He extended a hand, not touching her, but offering to help her stand. This time she took it. His skin was cool, almost soothing, and strength radiated through his grip, not crushing, just steady. Talia rose to her feet, and everything in the room suddenly felt different. The air, the light, even the pulse beneath her skin, as if acknowledging that her fate, her body, and her destiny had already begun to change. 3 days ago, she had been unwanted. 3 days ago, she had been infertile. 3 days ago, she had been sold. And now, she was the key to an ancient prophecy. She carried a child that shouldn't exist, and the most powerful vampire she had ever seen was bound to protect her. Talia Jensen's life had ended, but something far more dangerous had begun. The storm rolled in by afternoon, thick clouds smothering the sky until the entire mountain estate dimmed to a soft, bruised gray. Talia stared out the tall window of the library, her palm pressed against the cold glass, watching the trees sway like restless shadows. Every flash of lightning illuminated the forest, revealing towering silhouettes that vanished just as quickly. Behind her, the fire crackled softly in the massive stone hearth. The library was enormous, with shelves that stretched up 2 floors and a study table that could seat 10. The warmth of the fire should have soothed her, but her stomach twisted with a heaviness she couldn't ignore. 3 days. Only 3 days under Dorian's roof, and everything she'd ever known had flipped inside out. She was pregnant, with a child that human science said she could never have. With a vampire's child, a hybrid, a prophecy fulfilled, a threat to supernatural factions she didn't even know existed a week ago. Every so often, She felt a faint flutter low in her belly, a reminder that what lived inside her was real. Not imagined, not a dream, not a mistake. Alive. Talia drew another breath, then pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. You're trembling. Dorian's voice drifted gently from behind her. She didn't jump this time. She had learned that Dorian moved silently, so silently that she often didn't know he was in a room until he spoke. It was eerie at first, then frustrating, then weirdly comforting. I'm not cold, she said without turning. No, he agreed quietly. You're afraid. She finally looked back at him. He stood near the fire, the flames casting waves of amber across his pale skin. His presence filled the room without dominating it. There was a gravity to him, an old weight in the air whenever he stood near. He wore all black again, soft knit shirt, tailored slacks, sleeves pushed up his forearms. Even in the dim light, his eyes glowed faintly silver. Of course I'm afraid, Talia said, pulling the blanket closer. I don't know what's happening to me. My body feels different. My dreams feel real. I keep sensing things before they happen. My heart feels like it's not even beating in the same rhythm anymore. She hesitated. Is that the baby? Something flickered in Dorian's expression, an emotion too fast for her to name. Partly, he said, and partly you. Your awakening is unfolding quickly. How quickly? She whispered. Faster than any record, he admitted. Her pulse stuttered. That's not comforting. No, he said softly, but it means your body was ready. It has been waiting for this. Talia wrapped the blanket even tighter around herself. He moved closer, then stopped several steps away, giving her space. Talia, he said quietly, you are not in danger from your own body. The changes you feel are a merging of energies, yours and the child's. It will feel unfamiliar, but not harmful. It feels like electricity under my skin, she whispered. That is precisely what it is, Dorian said. Life energy, the kind your ancestors were known for. Talia turned back toward the storm. I don't know how to do this. You do not have to know how, he said. You only have to endure, and you will not be alone. She closed her eyes, letting the thunder rumble in her chest. After a long moment, she asked, will you tell me about the prophecy now? She heard him exhale softly. Yes, you deserve the truth. Talia moved to the nearby table, sitting down slowly. Dorian pulled out the chair across from her, but didn't sit until she nodded. He rested his hands lightly on the table, unmoving, focused. There are ancient lines among both humans and vampires, he began. Lines that are older than recorded history. Yours is one of them. A lineage of life-bearers, humans capable of carrying power, not simply children. Power, she echoed. Yes, he said. And generations ago, one of your ancestors attempted what no human before her had done. She fell in love with my kind. Their union created a child with immense potential. Too much potential. What happened to the child? Talia asked. He was hunted, Dorian said softly. Feared. Killed before he reached adulthood. Talia flinched. Why? Because he was the first being who could bridge the realms of life and death. A living paradox. If he grew to maturity, he could have changed the balance between worlds with a single decision. And people feared he'd choose wrong? She asked. Dorian nodded. And so, both humans and vampires swore never to allow such a child to be born again. But now, I'm carrying one. Yes. And that's why other beings will come for me. Yes. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the room. So, I'm supposed to just accept this? Talia whispered. That I'm pregnant with something the world wants to destroy? Dorian leaned forward, his voice steady. You're not pregnant with something. You're carrying someone. Your child. A life that is yours and mine. The words hit her like warmth and fear tangled together. She looked away quickly, heart pounding. I didn't ask for this. No, he agreed. Destiny rarely cares who asks. They sat in silence for several heartbeats. Then Talia's hand drifted to her belly. The flutter came at the same moment, gentle but real. She swallowed hard. After a moment, Dorian spoke again. There is more. Of course there is, she muttered, wiping her eyes. There is a prophecy, he continued, that a second hybrid child, your child, would either bring peace or plunge the clans into annihilation. Your child could unite the realms or tear them apart. And everyone wants to take that chance out of my hands, Talia said bitterly. No one, Dorian said with surprising force, will take anything from you. Talia stared at him, startled by his sudden intensity. Then, unexpectedly, something in her chest softened. But why do you care so much? She whispered. You don't know me. For the first time since she'd met him, Dorian didn't answer immediately. He stood slowly and walked toward the window, gazing out at the storm. I have known you longer than you realize, he said quietly. Talia blinked. What does that mean? He didn't look at her. You were not chosen randomly. I found you because I've been searching for your line for centuries. When I sensed your presence in Briar Hollow, I knew the moment had come. Her breath hitched. You sense me? Yes. Ow! Your energy, he said, dormant but bright, like a signal calling out after generations of silence. She gripped the table. So you came to find me because of the prophecy. Partly, he said, and partly because you called to me. A flush rose in her chest. Called to you? Yes, he said. Not with your voice, with your essence, your loneliness, your strength, your quiet resilience. You were surviving a life that was never meant for you. And when you stepped onto my land, the shift was immediate. Your body recognized what it needed, and that somehow resulted in, she gestured shakily at her stomach. A soft smile touched his lips. A miracle. She shuddered. So we're bound. In ways deeper than blood, he said. Your awakening is tied to me. My strength will protect yours, and the child we created will be the bridge between our worlds. He finally turned, meeting her eyes. Talia, he said softly, I will not let the world take you from me. Her throat tightened. Why me, Dorian? Beyond the prophecy. Why me? He stepped closer this time, slow, deliberate, until he stood just inches away from her. His voice lowered. Because even before the prophecy, before the awakening, before the child, I saw you. I saw a woman the world didn't deserve. A woman whose spirit refused to break despite everything her family tried to crush. A woman whose strength made her glow even in the darkest room. Her breath caught. Her pulse thrummed. She whispered, You don't even know me. Dorian shook his head gently. I know enough, and I will spend the rest of my existence learning the rest. Talia swallowed, heart pounding so hard she knew he could hear it. Before either of them could speak again, a sudden crash echoed through the estate. Talia shot to her feet. What was that? Dorian's expression sharpened, ancient, lethal. His pupils narrowed, and the air around him crackled. Stay behind me, he said, voice now edged with steel. Another crash, then a guttural snarl from somewhere outside. Talia's breath stilled. What's out there? She whispered. A scout, Dorian muttered, stepping toward the door. They've found you sooner than I expected. Her blood turned to ice. A scout of what? He turned to her, eyes glowing fully silver now. A vampire clan that does not wish for your child to live. Fear stabbed through her like a blade. What do we do? She whispered. Dorian reached for her hand, this time without hesitation, and pulled her close. We fight, he said, and I will tear apart anyone who tries to take you. Before she could react, the hallway lights flickered. The growl grew louder. Dorian positioned himself between her and the door, every muscle in his body tense, sharp, deadly. The estate trembled as something slammed into the front entrance. Dorian, she began. Stay behind me, he repeated. Lightning flashed. The front door shattered, and everything descended into chaos. The creature that lunged through the door wasn't fully human and wasn't fully vampire. Something feral, with pale twisted limbs and eyes like black pits. It moved fast, faster than her eyes could track, claws raking across the wooden floor. Talia screamed. Dorian moved with supernatural grace, intercepting the creature mid-leap. They collided with an explosive crack, crashing into a bookshelf that splintered on impact. Run, Dorian commanded without looking back. But Talia didn't run. Something else moved inside her. Heat, pressure, a sudden surge of strength that flooded her limbs. Her vision sharpened. Her breath steadied. The life energy inside her flared. The creature lunged again, and Talia lifted her hand instinctively. A burst of glowing light shot from her palm. The creature flew backward, smashing into the wall hard enough to leave a crater. Talia stared at her own hand, trembling. What did I just? Dorian looked at her, stunned. Your power, he breathed. It's already manifesting. The creature writhed, shrieking. Dorian stepped in front of Talia again, shielding her as he finished the creature with a violent twist and a powerful strike, leaving it lifeless on the shattered floor. Silence finally fell. Talia's legs gave out, and she sank to the floor. Dorian was at her side instantly, his hands on her shoulders. Are you hurt? No, she whispered. But Dorian, I did something. I didn't even know I could. I felt it. It responded. Your awakening is accelerating, he said. The child amplifies you. She looked up at him, tears burning her eyes. I don't know how to control it. You will, he promised. I will teach you. She leaned into him despite herself, shaking. What now? She whispered against his chest. Now, he said, wrapping an arm around her protectively. We prepare for war. They will come again. Stronger. Faster. And us. We will be stronger too, he said. She pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes. Dorian, will we survive this? He cupped her cheek gently, his thumb brushing away a tear. Yes, he said, because I will not allow any other ending. Talia swallowed. 3 days ago, she had been unwanted, powerless, forgotten. Now she felt the spark of power blooming under her ribs. She felt the baby's pulse inside her, stronger than before. She felt Dorian's presence anchoring her. For the first time in her life, she believed she could fight back and win. As the storm raged outside, Dorian held her close, whispering a promise against her hair. I will protect you. I will protect our child, and we will change the world together. Talia closed her eyes, and a slow, powerful certainty unfurled inside her. Her story would not end in fear. It would end in victory, in power, in love, in a world remade. She wasn't broken. She wasn't barren. She wasn't weak. She was chosen. And this time, she would not run. She would rise. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.